For the longest time, the whole conversation in the blockchain world has been about one thing: scaling with layer twos. But what if that was just the warm-up act? Today, we're looking at what comes next, a really profound shift toward what's called a modular future, all built on these things called layer threes. So let's just dive right in. This isn't just some small update we're talking about. The source material calls it the most critical yet arguably underpriced narrative. And that word, underpriced, that's what you really got to pay attention to. It suggests that while most people are looking one way, the real value, the real opportunity might be hiding in plain sight. Okay, so to really get why layer threes are such a big deal, we first have to talk about the problem they're solving. Layer twos like Arbitrum and Optimism were a massive leap forward for scaling, for sure. But as they've gotten more and more popular, they've started to hit a new kind of wall, what you could call a scaling squeeze. Here's the issue in a nutshell. Just picture a super popular game, a high-speed trading platform, and a new social media app, all trying to run on the same digital highway. They're all competing for the exact same space. And what happens? You get a traffic jam. That traffic jam drives up fees and slows everything down for everyone. For you, as a user, that just means lag and crazy high costs. It's just not a model that can last. And this really just nails the heart of the problem. A high-performance app, like a game, needs its own dedicated express lane, right? It needs speed and cost that you can actually predict. But a general-purpose layer 2 shoves everyone into the same crowded, one-size-fits-all highway. It's this fundamental mismatch that's causing that scaling squeeze. So how do we fix this squeeze? Well, the answer is a total shift in how we think about this stuff. Instead of trying to force these amazing new apps to fit into the old chains, the idea is now to build the chain to perfectly fit the app. And that, right there, is the modular revolution. And this is the magic that makes it all happen. Layer 3 software development kits, or SDKs. Honestly, the best way to think about them is like a Lego set for building your own blockchain. They give developers all the essential pieces right out of the box, letting them spin up a custom chain that is perfectly designed for whatever their app needs to do. All right, so let's picture how this all stacks together. Think of it like a 3-layer cake, right? At the very bottom, you've got the base layer. That's the rock-solid security of Ethereum. Can't beat it. The middle layer is a big L2, like Arbitrum, which acts as the settlement layer. It basically keeps a record of everything the L3 does. And then you have the top layer. That's the L3 itself, a totally custom environment where your app can run free without having to fight anyone else for resources. But what are we really talking about when we say customizable? Because it's not just about changing the colors or tweaking a few little settings. No, we're talking about giving developers complete, total, and absolute control over their own little universe. We're talking about total sovereignty here. Developers can decide to use their own app's token for fees, which lets them capture value directly from their own ecosystem. They can choose a super specialized engine that's built for nothing but pure speed, or one that's designed for the kind of privacy that big financial institutions need. And for you, the user, it's simple. It all means a smoother, cheaper, and way faster experience. Okay, so this isn't just a tech upgrade. This completely changes the economics of everything. This new architecture creates two very different and potentially massive economic opportunities. So let's break down how value actually gets created and, captured in this new modular world. So first up, you have the big layer 2 platforms, your Arbitrums and your Optimisms. By offering these L3 toolkits, they're not competing with all these new app chains. They are enabling them. They're providing the core infrastructure. You know the old gold rush analogy? They're the ones selling the shovels. And then you have the other side of the coin, the app-specific layer 3s themselves. Well, they become a brand new asset class. In this model, all the value gets captured directly by that app's own token, from its own little economy. So if you really believe in a specific game or a particular application, you're investing directly in its own success. You're not just selling shovels anymore, you're owning the gold mine. And this really just lays it all out, side by side. You've got two completely different ways to look at this. On one side, you have the L2s building this powerful moat as the essential infrastructure providers, the shovel sellers, and they earn a little piece from every single L3 that builds on top of them. And on the other side, you have the L3s, the gold mines, where a single breakout app could potentially create an absolutely immense amount of value all on its own. All right, let's zoom out.
What's the big picture here? What's the real takeaway? When you boil it all down, this is about making it easier for people to create things. It's about lowering the barrier to innovation in a huge way.
Probably the absolute best way to think about this whole shift is to look at what Amazon Web Services, AWS, did for the internet. Before AWS, if you wanted to launch a website, you had to physically buy and manage your own servers. It was expensive and complicated. AWS changed everything by letting anyone just rent that infrastructure. Well, L3 toolkits are doing the exact same thing for blockchains. They let any team launch their own custom chain without having to build the hardest, most complex parts from scratch.
So what happens when you make it this easy to build? You get an explosion of creativity. We are going to see a Cambrian explosion of specialized chains that are purpose-built for huge industries like gaming, institutional finance, decentralized AI, social media, you name it. And that brings us to the million-dollar question, doesn't it? The race is now officially on. All these platforms providing these L3 tools are now competing to become the dominant standard, to be the Windows or the Mac OS of this new modular age. And whichever ecosystem wins that race, well, it's going to define the next chapter of the internet. And that, right there, is a story worth watching very, very closely.